everyone, and welcome to the Indie Creative Comics Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
It is, you know what? Monday is like a blessing and a curse all at once. Just because, a curse because I have to go to damn work, just like everybody else, but a blessing because we get to do this. We get to start off our week with talking comics and everything in that indie world. How are you doing, bro?
Good, man. With Monday being one of my days off, Mondays and Thursdays, it's nice to have something to do on Monday.
Oh, you're off. Yeah, you son of a bitch. You get like
Otherwise, I'd just be so lazy on a Monday.
Man, no, I'm like, I was over it. I woke up this morning at like 2:00 in the morning. So I'm like, this is probably like close to my dinner time.
Right.
And most people are on their lunch and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all good. I'm excited. It's Monday. We've got some really great stuff to talk about. And if you're brand new to the podcast, John and I, we love everything independent as far as comics, small press, anything that's not the big two. Let's just put it that way. We're going to put all in that category. We love creator-owned stuff. I've actually started to go on to Kickstarter. And I've been supporting a whole bunch of projects on there because there's a guy that runs a web page. I forgot his name, but we're gonna have him on probably in a couple of weeks. I'll send you the information. Who primarily reviews like a ton of Kickstarter stuff.
Oh, cool.
So it's truly independent stuff, and maybe there's some small press stuff on there. But yeah, I went on there and I was just like this. I don't know what I typed in as far as a search, but like 3,300 projects came up, and I was like, holy crap, that platform is just blowing up. And a lot of people were funded, which is pretty cool. So I think a lot of people have found their footing using crowdfunding to be able to get their stuff out there, which is just pretty damn cool.
Yeah. It's funny, you did kind of mention the excitement of indie creators, and we have another interview coming up, which with this person you're talking about, which I love doing our interviews. I just want people to take a look at the interview we did last Monday, Monday evening, with three very young, very talented, and very enthusiastic kids. And I got to say, man, after the weekend that I had, it was really nice to come back to that. To just talk about comics with these very enthusiastic and young creators. Yes, they made me feel a little old, but these kids were fantastic. Gave a great interview. I'm really wishing them a lot of success, and it was just really, really fun to talk with them.
Yes,
and their dog.
And their dog. Yeah, it was cool, and to be able to kind of share some tidbits of what we've done and maybe kind of help them along the way. But yeah, it was exciting. And on the flip side of that, I'm listening this morning because I listen to a ton of podcasts as well. And I was listening to Robservations by Rob Liefeld. And oftentimes he's really just talking about his stuff and what he's doing and how long he's been in the business. And he's like, if you want to listen to somebody live who is an actual comic book, that's the person that you want to talk. That's the person you want to listen to. And what I mean by is that every single week, without skipping a beat, he will recap his entire career in the first 5 minutes. And we were talking about that in comic books. Like if you want somebody to pick up a comic book, even if it's in the middle of a run, you sort of like recap either at the beginning or you add it into some kind of narration throughout the book so that somebody knows what's going on. He does it without fail. So he's a comic book person. But you're talking about how young these guys were. They're like in their late teens to early 20s. And interesting enough, he was talking on his podcast today, and he was talking about, and which I've never heard him talk about, was sort of like the indie portion of giving support to indie creators and giving them advice. But on the flip side of that, how him, Todd McFarlane, Mark Silvestri, because Mark Silvestri is doing Darkness again. I don't know if you knew that, which is fantastic. But these guys are in their late 50s and early 60s, and they're still doing this thing. So you've got guys on that side of the spectrum. I mean, you got Frank Miller still doing stuff. He just did the Batman thing last week.
Which, yeah, it was a backup in the Deadpool Batman, which is
Yes.
first of all very exciting. It's the first time in 20 years the two big two have come together to release a joint venture. So Marvel did Deadpool Batman last week, and DC's doing Batman Deadpool in November.
Mhm.
And you get your main story, you get your main feature, which of course is those two characters, but then you get all these really kind of interesting mini team ups in the back. So it's great. It's a jam-packed comic. You get a lot of great short stories, some great creators. I have to say that, yes, the Frank Miller story is peak Frank Miller minimalism, more shadow than light. But that being said, with so many of those panels where it was just these guys in black, all the information was there. Everything was anatomically there.
Right.
It's like, it was sort of like how you always talk about you're filling in between the gutters, right?
Right.
Right. You're actually filling in the information in your mind within the panel, but that's his style now. I have to say, three pages, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the better backup stories, and still really enjoyable for what it was. And it's Dark Knight Returns Batman meets Old Man Logan.
Right.
And the hook, the reason why they meet, that reveal at the end, I just thought it was really cool, well paced, really fun for a 3-page throwaway story. And again, masterclass in minimalism with Frank Miller there. But I have to say, I did enjoy it. And he doesn't do interiors a lot these days.
No, I mean,
Just
he's
those
up there,
covers.
and he's
Yeah.
been in the business for a long time. And so
Yeah.
we look at these guys like Rob is coming back, and we've got Youngblood coming back, which is pretty cool. And he's really gung ho. I mean, he's looking at possibly, a movie or TV show. He was talking about there was a game in development that was sort of like Diablo based, kind of back in the 90s, and there was like an actual he played an actual demo of it. It just lost financing, so it never saw the light of day. But he's in his late, I think he's 57. And like I said, Tom McFarlane, Mark Silvestri, Eric Larson. We still get Savage Dragon every couple months or whatever it is, that he's dishing them out. But these guys are up there, and they've done their bones and stuff like that. But they're doing their own projects because they love the medium, which is fantastic. And being able to talk to these guys over at, Terminus Comics about them just getting their feet wet into this thing. And they're such on the opposite sides of the spectrum, but the enthusiasm for the medium is the same, which was fantastic. So yeah, if you guys didn't get a chance to take a look at that podcast, take a look on our YouTube channel for sure.
Quite possibly getting in on the very ground floor of what could be the next big thing. Hopefully they'll get their own Levi's 501 jeans commercials like Rob did back in the day.
Yeah, that was, no more button fly stuff. That went at. All right, yeah, so that's enough banter for now. So let's get into the... I know you like that.
I do like that.
Just a couple of quick announcements before we get started with our reviews. Number one, the official IndieCreativeComics.com website is up finally. I'm really excited. There's great information on there. If you're a creator, listen, if you're looking for any tips, if you're looking to come on to the show and stuff like that for the podcast, there's a whole bunch of information on there. If you're looking to come on to our online library that we have and you want to submit your book, there's submission stuff on there. So there's a whole bunch of information on there. Even our crowdfunding page is up on there as well. We're really excited about the reboot for Project Shadow Breed. So we actually have the pre-launch page already set. So if you actually go to IndieCreativeComics.com, you'll see all the information on there. I believe we're going to try to launch this. It's already up and running, but we're going to try to launch it in mid-October. So get yourself over to Kickstarter just so that you can stay notified as to when the actual campaign goes live. We're really excited about it. We're throwing a whole bunch of extras because we're definitely going to try to shoot for this stuff to be in store as well. But I think on the Kickstarter campaign, what we're trying to do is give a whole bunch of extras that are not going to be available when it goes direct to market or even when we sell it online and stuff like that. So whatever's on Kickstarter is going to be specifically for Kickstarter. And there's been so much work put into this that we step back from the original story. It has its heart. Everything is still the same. The heart of the story is still there, but we were able to change the beats and make it just give it so much more of an impact. And I'm really excited about that. I'm almost done with issue 2, lettering because all the art's done. Issue 3 is being worked on right now with 4. So the first arc is going to be 4 issues, and at the end of arc 4, we're going to actually have a backup story where we introduce or reintroduce the Red Hyena, which is awesome and great. So yeah, head over to indiecreatorcomics.com. Check out the information and definitely put yourself on notification for when the campaign goes live. Yeah, that's my indie news. What do you got?
Really nothing. I really haven't been paying too much attention with any indie news going on this week. So yeah.
No. What about, you said something about Bendis?
Oh, I figured when we talk about Powers, I just kind of want to talk about his career.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, the only other thing I want to mention is,
yeah.
I'm
excited by your news, by the way. That's the best news I have heard all week.
Oh yeah, well, it's kind of good. I'm kind of happy about it too. But we were just talking about it beforehand. Robert Redford, man.
Oh yeah.
There's just another one in the back.
Yeah.
So we're at work. We're sort of like doing our own Deadpool of who the next one's going to be, and our Deadpool's for our 80s action stars.
Okay.
So we're looking at either Bruce Willis. Well, I'll throw him in there as well because he was more like 70s. He was back in the 70s. Chuck Norris, who I think is going to outlive everyone. Yeah. For sure, because he's just not.
He was here before the Big Bang, and he will be here after the Big Bang.
Definitely. Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those are the big ones. Who else do we have? I mean, we lost Carl Weathers already.
Yeah.
He did some Action Jackson stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? You got to put. I think Danny Glover. I hate to say it, but you might have to.
Yeah,
he's kind of retired. He's kind of retired from acting. So
he is. Then you'd have to put in what's his face as well, Mel Gibson. He's not quite up there though yet, right? I think he's probably in his 60s.
Yeah, no, because Glover was always the older one too.
Right.
I guess there is talk of a 5th Lethal Weapon that Mel will direct as well. So
really,
yeah. So Danny Glover, I guess, not fully retired, but haven't seen him in a while.
No, I haven't. Well, I think he's done like Netflix stuff or not stuff that's on big screen, but he's been on small screen stuff. Yeah. So we've got sort of like this Deadpool of the 80s action stars.
Jeff Speakman. Put Jeff Speakman on your list.
Speakman. No.
Michael Dudikoff, American Ninja.
No, I think he's already gone. But yeah, we'll see. It's kind of sad. I mean, the last thing that I saw him in was what was it? Captain America?
Yeah, so he had a big role in Winter Soldier, which was great. It's just, and again, kind of a guy who didn't necessarily need to do it for the money. Right. He just wanted to play in that pool. He wanted to be in that sort of modern action movie, and he was great. He was so good in Winter Soldier, kind of his like 3 Days of the Condor, channeling that kind of stuff, that spy espionage vibe. He was great in it, and then came back for that scene in Endgame when they go back to the first Avengers movie, right? He was back for that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just really cool that he wanted to play in that pool. Had a few Old Man with a Gun, I think was his last full movie he was in 2018.
Yep.
And
did you ever see him in the theater? The only movie that I ever saw him in the theater.
Legal Eagles?
No. Indecent Proposal.
Oh yeah, I never saw that.
That was Woody. Was it Woody Harrelson? I think it was Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson,
Debbie Moore, and him. He was the millionaire that offered up the cash.
Definitely saw him in Winter Soldier theater as a kid. I did see Out of Africa. I was way too young to really endure that movie.
Right.
But he was in that. He
had that really good espionage film with what's his face too, with Brad Pitt. I forgot what it was called that I saw. I know somebody's screaming at me right now on screen saying, "It was this, you dummy."
Wasn't Sneakers, right?
No,
Sneakers was another one that was a good late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Early.
No, but he did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it just
he's an icon. He was one of the best.
Yeah. It just sucks that we're losing him slowly but surely. So we'll see who's next, and it just lets us know we're getting up there. And why not? All right, Kitty. So let's move on. So this is the portion of the show where we're going to get into some of the reviews. So John and I looked at the shelf and we said, "Hey, this looks pretty cool," and we read it, and we're going to give our 2 cents in it. So you have something from last week. I believe.
Yes. So since I was on the road, couldn't join you last week, I still wanted to talk about this revival that came back last week after I think the last project was about 5 years ago for this property. So this is from Dark Horse Comics. It is Powers 25, issue 1. So excuse me. If you do not know, that's cool because this was a really good accessible first issue for a series that premiered 25 years ago. So basically, Powers was a series, I believe, originally published by Image. It was written by Brian Michael Bendis and illustrated by Michael Avon Oeming. And they are back with a new take or a revisitation of this world that they created 25 years ago. They are joined by Nick Filardi on colors, Joshua Reed on letters, Jinx World publisher, because that is the imprint within Dark Horse, is Elisa Bendis, and it is edited by Daniel Chabon, assisting editor Chuck Howitt-Leese, assistant editor Foster R. Cupbens. So yeah, so if you don't know, Powers was a series that premiered in 2000. It was a really, really cool concept. It was at a point when police procedurals were very big, right? Law and Order had been chugging away for a while. Homicide, Life on the Street was a big deal. In the late 80s, early 90s. That the guy who developed that show went on to do The Wire. So police procedurals were a big deal in this era. And Brian Michael Bendis, who had been making comics on his own throughout the 90s with some great things like historical crime noir, Torso, Jinx, Fire, his creator-owned fictional espionage crime noir stuff. And he was fortunate enough to link up with Michael Avon Oeming, another, journeyman artist from the 90s who was looking for stuff to do. And Bendis decided to combine his love of the police procedural and crime noir and detective stories and his knowledge of forensics that he had learned to create his creator-owned work and put that in the world of superheroes. So original flavor Powers, you basically had your main character was a cop named Christian Walker. His partner was Dina Pilgrim, and Christian Walker used to actually be a power. He had superpowers and he was a hero and had since retired from that and became a police officer in a division specifically focused on superpower related crimes. Nice. Hence the name Powers. It's the Powers division. So that ran for about 30 some odd issues. And then about 5 years ago for the 20th anniversary, they did Powers the Best Ever. And that was sort of a climax, a capping off of the entire Powers series. And now 5 years later, we are back. We are following a new detective who is on the Powers division and has connections to the original series. And you get to meet or re-meet some old characters from the previous series, but it is done in such a way that this first issue was so accessible for if you had no familiarity with the previous series, you still get an enjoyable first chapter on a bigger story. It has all the elements of the original series, and I feel like if you really dig this, it will make you want to go back and revisit probably one of the greatest and most influential comics of the early 2000s. And awesome. Part and parcel of that is Brian Michael Bendis, who I did want to sort of talk about him a little bit because he is a great example of a guy who I believe lived in Cleveland and, graduated, I think, college in 85 or either high school or college in 85, loved comics and decided he's going to go and do his own comics. And he would take these pictures, kind of do a photocopy thing, lay them out in panel arrangements, put his words on top of that. and yeah, would just legit self-publish this stuff, and it caught the attention of other creators and other comic companies, and so he was given this great opportunity to do this book Powers, which really put him on the map. And it was a big push from Image, because at that time they were just starting to really become the Image that we know, where they were expanding so far beyond capes and tights that we had series like Powers, we had series like Walking Dead, show up from Image and completely just open up that aspect to that publishing company. So these were watershed moments, not just in the comic industry, but also, for Image as well. And then Bendis's stock just continued to rise and rise and rise. He was lured to Marvel and had the promise of creating the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, which was, the original version of the Ultimate Comics was accessible comics using classic characters to lure in newer readers without being bogged down to 40 or 50 years of backstory. And one of the things that Bendis is most known for is really making decompressed storytelling a thing. So it really was, back in the day, you would get in a comic, you would get what would now be considered 12 issues worth of story in one comic, right? And so Bendis famously, I always rag him on this, but it still it all works, when you read the material. Famously took the I think 8-page Amazing Fantasy 15 story that introduced Spider-Man by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, back in the 60s, and then expands that to basically tell that 8-page story in about 8 issues, right?
Oh,
so if you read that first, when you were reading that first Ultimate Spider-Man was coming out monthly, it was like, oh my gosh, let's get to the spider stuff. Let's get going here. But it worked. That series worked. Him and his artist Mark Bagley were on that book for about 150 consecutive issues. Eventually, that led to Brian Michael Bendis creating Miles Morales for the Ultimate Universe. So popular that he got ported into the main Marvel Universe, still there to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And we have yet to get the live action version of Miles, but the 2 animated movies with Miles were huge successes, opened up a lot of other people to comics and this character and these worlds and things like that. Bendis was also part of the Marvel Brain Trust of creators that would help shape the early Marvel Studios until they were kind of put aside for Kevin Feige to do his own thing, which worked great for a while. And, here we are now. And then when Bendis was done with Marvel, he went over to DC and got to work on Superman. And his arrival at DC was very much like in the vein of when Kirby left Marvel for DC in 1971 with the New Gods and Mr. Miracle and all that stuff. I mean, the same ad campaign that DC was using, the Great One is coming, all that stuff. His work at DC did leave a mark, but I think that it wasn't necessarily.
It was more like a streak.
Just like Kirby, it wasn't what DC wanted, and it wasn't really what the fans
wanted. Yep.
Yeah. So he picked up all of his toys and went over to Dark Horse, and Dark Horse has sort of given him a new sandbox to play in. His old Jinx World stuff is now still available through Dark Horse. His other series with Mark Bagley, Brilliant, is also now available through that.
It's crazy because that catalog has been everywhere.
It's been
Jinx World stuff has just been through. Yes.
Oh yeah, and because that's the deal. When you get Bendis, you get his back catalog, right? And so I'm sure Dark Horse has, if not already, they'll have the full line of Powers trades available for people to catch up. But yeah, I mean, again, Oeming has a great style, very simplistic, almost like a Batman animated series, Bruce Timm vibe, combined with Mike Mignola style as well. Very much an influence on him. I, of course, opted for the Mignola cover. And yeah, really cool setup. Again, reintroduces you to this world if you're already familiar with it, and shows you some new things that are different. And yet, if you're not familiar with it, it's a great introduction to this world. It does the rule of entertainment, man. It leaves you you wanting more. And again, one of the hallmarks of Powers was the sort of we could do anything we want sort of attitude, and the morbidity of the crime scenes, the aftermath of these kills are just fantastic. One of my favorite sequences in this one specifically is the cop that we're following, this new detective we're following. I don't know if you could tell, but basically this guy's got his whole face blown out.
Yes.
And just the way she's looking through it, it's so good. It's so fun. It's so cinematic, yet on paper. I know there was a live action TV series that lasted for 2 seasons for Powers that really, I don't think, captured the magic of what this comic could do, and hopefully we'll be able to do again.
So do we know if it's an ongoing again, or is it a mini?
So there's a really nice back matter where Bendis is sort of charting the creation of Powers in his early career. This is intended to be an ongoing.
Okay.
So we'll see how long that goes. I know that Powers was, like I said, about 30 some odd issues. It never really was a monthly, so to speak. I think there were periods where it was coming out every month, but that wasn't like a 30 consecutive month thing. It was a little stretched out as far as the release on that. But
that tends to be something with these indie creators and books and stuff like that. We had the same thing with Saga, right?
Yeah.
So when it's run for about what was it, like almost 40, 50 issues,
something like that.
Then it went on hiatus. Yep, and then it's back again.
Just about anything Tinian does. He'll write a stretch, he'll take a break, and then he'll bring it back. But he also has other things going on in those stretches. But so again, it's great to see Bendis and Oeming back doing the thing that put them on the map. One of my favorite series of all time, and I'm really excited to put this new version up there.
Nice. All right, check it out, guys. Powers 25 from Dark Horse Comics. All right, I'm gonna go next because it's the last book that we both shared. But I'm still into this. So we've got the Valiant Beyond series. So this is Valiant's attempt at bringing back their characters with like new origins and stories. I think a couple of weeks ago we spoke about Bloodshot. This is XO Manowar, and the creative team on this. The writer is Steve Orlando. You've got the artist being Guillermo Fajardo. The colorist is Lautaro Tulli. They even have a flatter, Ludwig Olimba, and then letters by Ezekiel Verni. So Valiant being published by Alien Books, doing some really wicked stuff, just giving these guys new origins, and I think just trying to spark more new readers into their catalog. And this is no different than Bloodshot. It's actually quite similar in regards to how the stories are being introduced. I know they have Bloodshot, they have Harbinger, which I didn't read, Manowar, and then they have Ninjak coming out soon, which I'm definitely going to read. But from what I've seen so far, new origin stories, but not an origin per se. And this is sort of like jumping in the middle of a story. So Arik is already himself from Dacia, and he's on this planet that we don't know what it's called, except for the location that they're at, which is called the Red Steppe or Steep, however you want to pronounce it. And he's sort of like this nomad walking this land, but he's sort of having these dreams about some woman that is the queen, I guess, or he keeps calling queen, that he's trying to either find or have her come to him in some way. And then you sort of have like this Mad Max vibe where you have this family that's being chased by these, they're called Earthborn, but they remind me sort of like the guys from Mad Max. And he comes into the way to rescue them, sort of like in this, if you ever watch anime, Fist of Fury style. Mm-hmm. So the art here is pretty cool. I mean, the action is great. It's bloody as hell. And it has just a mixture of everything. And basically he saves them, and he says that he's going to promise to take them to safety, which he does. And at the same time, he let one of the bad guys go and told whoever their leader was to, leave these lands or whatever, or he'll take care of them. The only time we saw him in a suit was sort of like at the very beginning, which is kind of when he intervenes, which is funny because then he takes off the suit to beat everybody up. So he's big and muscle bound, so to see the suit coming off and stuff like that, really cool. I mean, the color palette is fantastic. The layouts are great and stuff like that. The storytelling it was really easy to follow. So if you've never read anything on X-Men Manowar, you don't have to, because this is just giving you all new origin. And then towards the end, we see him save the family. He brings them to this place where they can stay as a community that's safe from the Earthborn people, but they actually end up capturing Arik at the very end, the Earthborn people, and then we get to see their leader, which he has a pretty cool power. I'm not gonna to ruin it for you guys, but he does have a really cool power, and you leave it as a cliffhanger with, him standing over Arik, just getting ready to, I guess, put a beating onto him because he killed like 4 of his men. So pretty cool. I enjoyed it. These new reboots from Bloodshot to X-Men Manowar have been, they're pretty interesting. So I want to see how long they last in regards to what the old school stuff used to do. But it was great. I enjoyed it, so I'm going to keep up with it. They're coming off as, I don't think, short, so I think these are supposed to be ongoing. So as long as the run is doing well, I'm pretty sure they're going to keep them going on, because this is probably reboot number 5 or 6 since we've been around. And it's tough. I mean, if you're gonna reboot a character and take it over from the series before, and you really didn't have a following, or you're trying to get new people onto it, it makes it hard. But I think this is really smart in what they're doing with the Valiant Beyond, because you're creating whole new timelines, same characters, sort of like what DC is doing now with the Absolutes, versions of Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. They're characters that we know, but they've all got new origins and new villain types and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think Valiant took a page out of that and is doing the same thing. I like it. So if you're a Valiant fan, or if you're looking for something new and in a different publisher, check them out. Pretty good stuff. X-Men Manowar from Valiant and Alien Books. All right, we got one more for you, gang. Go for it.
All right. So I know we're a big fan of this guy's work, and he is probably, I don't know, one of my favorite one-man band, right? Creators out there. So this is from Image. It is part of the imprint, One Man Art Comics, Szymon Kudranski's No Man's Land. Yes, so the idea here, again, I mentioned before, like how when Bendis, was at Image, and I think he was one of the first creators to get their own imprint, the Jinx World imprint, which was, again, mostly populated by stuff that he had done before Powers, and then included all that new stuff that he was coming out with at the time. So Image has a lot of these imprints. Rick Remender has his Giant Generator, I think, imprint. Jeff Johns and his crew has their Ghost Machine stuff. So all these imprints from Image, I think it's great. It's a really cool idea.
Kirkman is Skybound.
Right, Kirkman is Skybound. But I think right now, Szymon Kudranski is the only one who's the only guy who's doing things for his imprint, hence the one-man art comics, which is great. So aside from him, he is assisted with editing and translation assistance by Adam Morwell, and lettered by DC Hopkins. Otherwise, created, written, and illustrated by Szymon Kudranski. So No Man's Land, I think you could probably first and foremost tell from the logo, this is about some tensions between some two countries there. And specifically, we are in, I think it was a year after the Bay of Pigs. So I think it's like 1963. Mm-hmm. So it's the year Kennedy is assassinated, but that is where this takes place. We are in the peak of the Cold War, which is something that, Angel and I grew up as kids in the 70s and 80s. Cold War was always a big thing, man, until it wasn't. But everything is old is new again, so it might also be again a big thing. But we'll see. But this is plays on the familiar trope. You have a gentleman who works for the FBI, and he is the day of his retirement. And he is done. He is ready. He is so frustrated. He doesn't even want to type his retirement letter. He wants to handwrite it because he can't even figure out, how to use the typewriter, which that was a little interesting to me. But this guy he is old and he feels he is in the way, and he thinks he's going to get his retirement paper signed, but no, he is asked to go on a special mission to this very interesting spot geographically, because Alaska in the U.S. and the tip of Russia, there's only about 3 miles of water that separates them. And in the winter, an ice bridge sort of forms.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman has been found murdered right in the middle. So now you have a race. You have the KGB, who the U.S. assumes is sending agents up there to investigate. So the FBI has to send this agent to go and investigate. However, he can't set 1 foot across that border on that no man's land, and vice versa, because then you'd be invading another land, right? And so it's a great setup. The pacing is very interesting because this is all set up and context and background information. Mm-hmm. It really plays out a lot like the beginning of the movie JFK. We were just getting all that, sort of information about the assassination just sort of thrown at you. It's kind of what happens here. You do get a big information dump about the geopolitical landscape that this exists in, but you do get some gorgeous art. This guy, he is amazing. It's very monochromatic. There is a one pivotal scene that has a little dab of color, which really conveys the sadness of the scene. I don't want to tell too much about that. But then you just have, just some really neat, just sort of like snowblind stuff. And then you get a nice real shocker of a 2-page spread at the end when you actually get to the thing that this agent is getting to. I find it interesting that they are choosing to send this very old man. So I think there's a lot more to this story as far as why it is him that is sent there. And I think that's going to play out. And I also think we're going to have something that very heavy on exposition in the beginning, but as we ramp towards the end, it's going to get more and more quicker paced, more actiony, a lot like his Blood Commandment miniseries that he did a year or so ago, which is a great story about a werewolf fighting a Dracula in the woods. And again, you had a very heavy exposition first issue, and that pacing just increased towards the end to you just locomotive to your climax there. And I think this is going to be no different. The Whiteout, which is a series by Greg Rucka, Steve Lieber, that was a great big hit for Oni back in the day. The golden age of Oni that I always like to talk about. Comparisons to that are very apparent, and so in so much as there, again, movie homage covers are the thing. So he's doing a lot of movie homage covers, and one of them is an homage to the movie poster version of Whiteout. So I thought that was very neat that he's making that connection too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I found it very fascinating. I love the history-based stuff, but I really felt like the cold, impersonal vibe that he conveys from the FBI office to the thing in the piece in the middle that is a very emotional low point, still is very warm colors. But then when he gets to Alaska, I physically felt chills. I felt like I was in the cold. He has a real good way of putting you in that scene. So great stuff from Simon.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this book before we started, and we kind of chuckled because you knew how I felt about the back matter. So when it comes to like historical context and comics and stuff like that, I'm always just like, yeah. I need an escape. I don't need to be going back time with history and stuff like that. But it was Simon Grodzinski, and I really like his style. When you look at artists that make an impression on people, you have a ton of artists out there that when they're starting out, they're always obviously being influenced by people that they're looking at. And oftentimes if they get stuck in a particular style, then they end up just emulating that other person, so they never really stick out. But then you meet artists like Daniel Warren Johnson, still to this day, Rob Liefeld, I could point them out anywhere, and other artists like that. And Simon Kudansky is one of these guys. I mean, the only other person that I could think of sort of like in the stylistic painting, or you could think of two. You got David Mack, and then you got Bill Sienkiewicz, and then, I mean, Alex Ross as well. I mean, they do this painterly style, and it's great. And it's funny because you'll look at it at first glance and you'll think that the line work isn't there, but he does have really, really sharp, clean lines that he uses. But I think what he's really freaking good at is creating mood on a page. So throughout the story, there's not one point in this story, even if you didn't read it, if there were no words on it, you would know how to feel. Simon Kudansky is just really good at freaking tone and feel and mood, to just drive that out of you. So that's one of the things that I really appreciate. So even if the material is not something that I'm crazy about, I'm always really excited about looking at his art. And oftentimes, the first thing I did actually is I went through the entire book without reading it at all, just so that I can get sort of like the pacing and the mood stuff. And I almost got what this book was about without reading a word of it. And then you go back, and usually with first issues, and I think Scott Snyder does the same thing. Not Scott Snyder. Yeah, Scott Snyder. No, not Scott Snyder. Yeah, Scott Snyder. Not Zack Snyder. Scott Snyder. Yeah, there's too many Snyders.
D. Snyder?
Yes. In his first issues, there's quite a lot of text in there and a lot of background. And I think it's a good and bad thing. I think it's good, especially when you're picking up something that has no context previously. So it's not like it's a superhero book and you're like, oh, this is Superman. I don't really need to know because I know he's from Krypton, blah, 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 blah. This is a completely different story. So I think the back matter that he includes is really pertinent to what he's trying to set up. And I know you love the part of that geopolitical background, part of the history. So you got Russia and America, you got the tension already there, but then you've got this murder case, and where she's landed literally is no man's land. It's between the Great Diomede, is what they call it, and the Small Diomede. And it's not on either one's property. So right now we're seeing everything from the American side. We haven't even been introduced to the KGB. So we don't know what type of tension is going to be there. But it's just a really good setup. And I feel sorry for this guy. I mean, wanting to retire. I sort of have like that movie Seven feel with Morgan Freeman's character, who's like literally days from retirement. And then this case lands on his lap. It's the same thing with this guy. He's just wants to retire. He's fucking in the middle of Hoover's freaking run on the FBI. He gets pulled in, and it does stuff to his own life, which is crazy.
And just sort of the bleakness of where he's at, where he really has nothing to go back home to. And it really does feel like they have sent him on this mission to fail. Almost so that he would make a mistake and cause an international incident. That's the vibe I'm getting, right?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
And yet he's a competent agent. It's not that he's a fool. It's just he's old and he doesn't want to do this anymore.
Yes,
he's forced to. Yeah, it's so well done. I also love that not only was Zyman given this imprint to do the stories he wants to tell, but everything he has been doing, especially on this imprint, is always a different thing. It's a different genre. It's a different type of story. Some of it feels deeply personal, like something epic. But yeah, I just, again, he is one of my favorite creators right now because of his willingness to take risks too.
Yes. And I love that he does different genres and stuff like that. It's great. And they land within like these short minis that are there. You just digest them and then you can move on. And this was no different. It's 4 issues as a mini. I thought what he did really great at the end with the paper clippings of what's going on. So it gives you a little bit of background of the story itself. So definitely check it out, guys. No Man's Land. I mean, if you're into like crime dramas or like it almost feels like a little bit of horror in there, but we'll find out because I'm not sure what's going on with the woman that was murdered, the way that she was murdered. We don't know that if it's ritual or if it's something that's kind of fishy out there. So he left it really, really open and intriguing. So that's what I like in a comic. When you get to the end of it, you're like, fuck, I got to get the next issue because it was pretty good. Yeah, I wish I could show you splash page, but I'm not going to show it because it's really good. Yeah. But if you want to watch a masterclass or see a masterclass and like really, and it's funny because he'll go from really sharp lines and then his backgrounds will be like really impressionistic. And so like you have to kind of like squint your eye, then all of a sudden it comes into focus, which is great. It's just, yeah.
Like the close up of like the helicopter rotors. Yeah. It's all very cinematic as well, but just is made for comics. It is just made for that medium.
And he's really, really, really good at anatomy because I follow him on Instagram as well. And he's constantly drawing like parts of the figure, so fingers and styles in different formations. So his facial expressions and his bodily expressions are really well done. So, yeah, I'm not crazy about the historical context of it, but I'm definitely going to keep reading on it.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Simon, if you're listening, come on. We want to talk to you. We would love to talk to you. And I guess maybe for Angel's sake, in issue 2, like throw a couple aliens or zombies in there.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. That'd be fantastic. All right, kiddies. That brings us to the end of our show this week. We had a couple of good books there. So No Man's Land, X-O Manowar, and Powers 25. Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff coming out next week as well. I think we have Robert Kirkman's Skin Breakers coming out next week, which I'm really looking forward to. And there was a couple other books that I saw as well. So definitely come back around next week. I also have information in regards to another guest that'll be on. I believe David Whalen from Correct Handed Comics. You spoke to him. I think I was absent at that last.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, so we're going to have him back on again as well. So we'll let you guys know when that's happening. And then this other person that runs a website in regards to the Kickstarter reviews, which would be really cool. Yeah, so we got some really great stuff going on. So listen, if you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast. We're going to be here every week, at least to the end of the year. We don't know if there's going to be anything after the new year because we don't even know if there's going to be a world after that, but we'll see. I hope there is. If you're a creator, want to be part of the podcast, want to come onto the podcast, talk about yourself and or a project you got coming up, just go to indiecreatorcomics.com, click on the podcast form tab, fill it out. John and I would love to have you on, talk about you and or your project. And as always, please, please, please support your local comic book shops because without them, we would not be able to get the material that we love so much. John, where do you get your comics from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, where you can get all these great comics and so much more. And don't forget, this coming Saturday is local comic shop day. So come on down to The Joker's Child to get some really cool local comic shop day specific stuff, or check out your local comic shop and make sure that you get there on local comic shop, unless, of course, the rapture happens either on Tuesday or Wednesday. But, boy, go down to your local comic shop on Tuesday or Wednesday, because what a great way to go out. Get a whole bunch of comics to take with you if you do get pulled up into the sky there. But it's probably not going to happen. So make sure Saturday, local comic shop day at your local comic shop or at The Joker's Child, the largest comic shop in Fair Lawn, New Jersey.
Awesome stuff. All right, kiddies. Until next time, read something indie, support creator owned. We're